away your work, get up and get ready for BIM Hour.
10 seconds to BIM Hour.
The National Fitness Program is watching you.
5,
4,
3,
2, BIM.
Welcome to That's Canon, a podcast talking about the Canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 16, and I'm your host, Phil.
And I'm Greg.
And we finally did it. We went back in time to 1980, and
Yes.
we watched what was considered to be one of the worst films ever made, The Apple.
Yes, and boy, you know, that phrase gets thrown around a lot, like, oh, this is the worst movie ever made. And there are very few movies that I've actually seen where that actually kind of lives up to it. It lives up to it, and this is definitely one of them. Boy, does it live up to it.
There are fundamental flaws deep within this movie. But if Menahem Golan and the writers Menahem Golan,
I would say he wrote it too, didn't he?
he
Which
did the
probably explains a
screenplay.
lot.
The story is by Kobe and Irish Recht. If they spent just a little more time refining this idea, I think it could have been really good. There is a good movie in here, and I'm going to stand behind that.
I'm shocked to hear you say that. And even more shocked to hear you saying that you'll die on that hill, because I think this is just when you hit I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that they're like fundamental issues. And I actually think it's so fundamental that there is no good movie here. Like, it's so not subtle, so on the nose, that I just feel like the whole, like, the core plot elements, the characters are just, it's too familiar, and it just doesn't make a good movie. Like, I feel like you totally need to rewrite the entire thing from the ground up.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Aside from maybe a couple of the songs.
Oh, the songs.
Musically, I mean, lyrically, they need to be scrapped.
Yes, I thought every song in this movie was atrocious.
Yes.
And they went on for way too long, and there's just too many of them. But there is something in the apple. There's a core to this apple.
And the core is rotten.
And I think if we stripped away the rot, we'd be able to find some good seeds to plant for a future good movie.
Oh man, the apple metaphors.
Yes.
They run deep.
Let's see if we can do this the entire time. The apple opens up in front of, like, it seems like a government building or something like that. It has like the world's flags and stuff. And there's a whole bunch of motorcycle gangs going around, and it's World Vision Song Festival, which I'm assuming is a play on Eurovision.
Eurovision, yeah. That's what I thought too. But like that's kind of a weird thing to put in a movie that you're intending for American audiences, because I mean, I don't think most Americans know what the Eurovision Song Contest even is.
I only knew what Eurovision is because of a Will Ferrell movie that came out this year. I never watched it, but it was called like Eurovision, and it was a parody movie where they sang songs and stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was what I assumed that it was kind of playing off of too. But yeah, kind of a weird concept to put in.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way, before we get too far, you? So when I was watching this on Amazon Prime, I'm assuming you were too.
Yep.
Did you see like a weird kind of like white line artifact at the top of this? Okay. I mean, I guess I'm not too surprised that they've just got like a really shit copy of this running from their servers, because who's going to spend time to watch it? But it was surprisingly distracting.
It was. I was kind of shocked that, I mean, it's considered the worst movie in the world, so maybe I shouldn't be shocked that it didn't get the best treatment. But yeah, they have like 12 white lines constantly flickering at the top of the movie.
It'd be one thing if they were kind of stationary, but yeah, they kind of flickered. So anyway, for those out there who watch it on Amazon Prime, sorry for a lot of things, but that too.
Though none of these we can control, but we're sorry that we suggested that you, one, watch this, and two, if you watched it on Amazon Prime, that you got like a poor copy.
Yeah.
Another thing before we really get deep into it.
Oh yeah.
Comcast is starting to put data limits on stuff. Have you seen this in the news?
Oh yeah, yeah.
1.5
reinstituted their data cap. Yeah.
25 terabytes. I intentionally watched a poor video quality for this movie. Just because I didn't want to take up. It says the best is 1.17 gigs an hour. I bumped it down to better, so it's 0.86 gigs per hour.
You anticipated this being so bad that you just didn't even want to waste your storage, your data on this. That's hilarious.
It's I don't regret it. So the movie opens up in this
Valuable
World
bits.
Vision contest area, and they're singing the BIM song, "Do the BIM," where they go like "be," and the crowd goes "I am." This song goes on for 5 minutes.
Way too long.
And the lyrics are kind of like they're talking about how BIM is on the way and BIM has the power.
You don't know what BIM is at this point.
Exactly. BIM stands for Boogaloo International Music.
Like a record label, basically.
And I mean, the set, the costumes, everything, it looks great. What they're doing, it just unfortunately falls so flat on its face that it's not interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like the costumes is probably like the one thing that was. I mean, I think they're also kind of shitty, but there's the one thing in this movie that actually kind of, I don't know. I'll say maybe the word I'll say enjoyed. I'll just say it. I enjoy the costumes because they're like, it's that kind of campy vision of the future from people in the 80s where they thought that everything was going to be made out of like clear plastic and holographic tape.
Yep. Sequiny.
Kind of really sparkly and shiny. It was enjoyable from like a campiness perspective.
Exactly. Then we go into like the booth where they're the people who are overseeing the World Vision Song Festival, and they're getting these metrics that I have just no idea how they're collecting. This one guy who's throughout the entire film, which I don't really think that they say his name in the entire thing, the black guy.
Oh, the producer, the budget Ruby Rod.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a great way of explaining who he is. There's like an assistant, and he's going like, we just scored 150 heartbeats during this song, and they're taking like all these weird metrics. It makes no sense how they're collecting it.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I see what they were going for, and it's kind of like a cool idea where they're so in tune with what the audience is feeling and how they're reacting that they actually have like bio signs on every audience member. So I'm assuming he's like, oh, their BPMs through the roof. They're really excited and loving it. But it's just confusing because you wonder like, how the hell do they know that? And you just kind of get that like, oh, it's the future.
Yeah, exactly. Because they even go, Mr. Boogaloo is talking to some random goon, and he's like, oh, we need to get some BIM merchandise out there. And the goon is going, oh, something like BIM t-shirts? He's like, no, this is 1994. Like, oh, people in 1994 won't wear t-shirts. I'm wearing a damn t-shirt right now.
Yeah. Mr. Boogaloo, he's the kind of evil big boss of BIM.
Yes. Mr. Boogaloo is played by Vladik Shabal. Now, this guy has been in a lot of movies, but he's probably most known for playing the chess grandmaster Kronstern in the James Bond film From Russia with Love.
Oh, interesting. I knew this guy looked really familiar. He actually looked like the bad guy in that movie Bloodsucking Freaks. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
This kind of like a slender guy with a goatee. I guess that just must be the look. I don't think it's the same guy, but that's what it reminded me of. But I knew he looked familiar.
Yep.
Good for him. He was in a Bond movie.
He's probably the most famous person in this entire film. There's one other person that'll put him to the test. But yes, Mr. Boogaloo, he has like the Van Dyke slick black hair. He looks evil.
Yeah, comically evil.
We'll explain why he looks evil in a little bit later. So he's going like, this is 1994. We don't need t-shirts. And then the next act comes up, and it's BB Phillips and Alfie. BB is played by Catherine Mary Stewart, who still acts to this day. And after The Apple, she still starred in a lot of shit. She was in a Stallone film. Or sorry, it was a Billy D. Yeah, no, it was Stallone. Yeah, Nighthawks that bombed. She was in the last
Nighthawks.
Starfighter that bombed.
Ugh.
She finally hit it somewhat big with Weekend at Bernie's in 1989, but then she quickly went back to doing crap.
Doing
So
garbage. I mean, Weekend at Bernie's, that's an arguable peak, but definitely it rises above the apple for sure.
exactly. George Gilmore is so unfamous that he doesn't even have a Wikipedia entry because this is the only film that he's ever done.
See, actually, aside from his weird accent, which I had trouble placing the entire movie, I actually thought Alfie was kind of an okay actor.
I honestly thought they dubbed over his voice because
It sounded weird,
it
right?
sounded weird the entire film.
Like initially, I thought he was like a British person trying to do an American accent and failing, and then I thought he was like Austrian and
Yeah,
doing an American accent and failing, and then I heard like Irish sometimes, but at other times his accent was perfectly American sounding. It was really bizarre.
it was. It was super weird. And the girl, BB, her singing voice is not her voice.
Oh,
So,
that's not surprising. Did he
yeah.
sing his own
There's
stuff?
no credited alternate singing voice for George Gilmore as
Okay.
Alfie. Um, but these two, they look like a good couple. They're both blonde. They got like their
Yeah.
white blouse and jeans, and they
Doing kind of a Sonny and Cher duet thing.
exactly. And the song is so on the nose. They're like, "Oh, you're the reason why I sing. You're the reason why I'm not sad." And the crowd is hating it. They're going like, "Oh, bring on the bim, sing the bim."
Boo. And it's funny because they clearly intended for the audience to be kind of like, oh, these assholes are not letting them sing this nice, beautiful love song. And I was 100% behind the audience.
Yeah,
This like as bad as the first song was, it was actually kind of like somewhat catchy and had a beat to it. This was just like the most derivative like folk love song garbage ever.
oh, 100%. But it's getting 151 heartbeats, which upsets Mr. Boogaloo.
Can't have that.
So he tells his crony to put in the red tape. Now the
Is it
red
Ruby Rod?
exactly. The red tape it emits like a high pitched squeaking
Oh, through like the PA,
through the
yeah.
PA, and it makes everyone upset, and they start getting even more violent, and it essentially stops their act midway, and they walk off stage. Mr. Boogaloo is then seen giving interviews in multiple different languages. What I found really odd about this scene is that they don't translate what he's saying.
Yeah, like I guess they're just trying to get across that the fact like he's this, cosmopolitan, world music mogul, and he speaks all these languages, and he's like a really smart, kind of sophisticated guy, but like the fact that it goes on as long as it does without subtitles, like they go through like French and Spanish and German before they get to like the English speaking press guy. It,
Exactly.
it goes on so as like okay, like it goes from making a point about the character to as an audience member, I feel like we're missing something. Like
Exactly. We're
we're
being
missing what
left
they're
out.
saying. Yeah.
And it's really weird. The American journalist is kind of asking some, I guess, intimidating
Hard
questions
hitting.
because Mr. Boogaloo goes all Trump on him, and he's essentially like, "You're saying that the Sonny and Cher act was doing better than the BIM? That's
That's
fake
fake
news."
news. I'm
and
glad we're on the same page on that.
and he kind of insinuates that if he keeps on doing this, he's going to put him out of business. He's going to get him fired from the
Right.
newspaper job.
What's your name?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
well, if you print this drivel you're talking about with me right now, then I'll see that you're in the what did he say, like the homeless line or like the jobless unemployed line by tomorrow morning or something like that.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Big threats coming from Mr. Boogaloo. God, I hate that name.
Mr. Yeah. Okay, could we like I gotta ask about that because I'm just gonna keep thinking about it if I don't ask about it. Boogaloo, like we all know at this point, like the most famous canon movie of all time is like that
Electric
breakdancing,
Boogaloo,
yeah,
Breaking Two.
like Breaking Two, Electric Boogaloo. Is there some like inside canon films joke about that word? Like
I
what?
don't know.
It can't be a coincidence that it shows up in both places with different spellings, but
It is a weird. It is a weird word, right? I mean, does
yeah,
Boogaloo actually have? What's the definition of Boogaloo? Is
it
there?
just it just sounds like a made up like in my head canon, I'm thinking about it being like this word that one of these guys came up with and thought it was funny, and they just put it in all the movies they were involved in, just for like in the way that you put in a cameo for the director or something.
Yeah.
That's the best I could come up with. It was it was really distracting through this whole movie, having like the main like big bad, the big villain of your movie, have that as his last name. It's the least intimidating last name you could possibly come up with.
Boogaloo is a genre of Latin music and dance which was popular in the United States in the 1960s. Interesting. I didn't know that Boogaloo was a genre of music.
Something back in the okay, so that I guess that could sort of tie into the kind of like on the nose theme of this whole movie, which is like, weren't things better back in the good old days? like they reminisce in a weird, creepy way about the '60s throughout this whole thing, especially later on, as we'll see. But
exactly,
maybe that's where they got that word from, the good old days before music got too commercial, and the man made it all sinful and weird.
We're gonna get all Boogaloo. We see the ride that Mr. Boogaloo and his gang take. I'm going to refer to him as a gang. No, not a gang. His cult.
His cult. Yeah, there we go.
Mr. Boogaloo and his cult, they're driving the Homer from The Simpsons.
I knew that car looked familiar, yeah. So it's like if you're like people who listen, you can imagine it's like a limousine-sized car, but it's got a giant ass spoiler on the back.
Yeah.
It's like bright sparkly yellow, and it's got these two like glass domes in the ceiling with colored lights on the inside, and it looked exactly like the shitty car that Homer Simpson designs in The Simpsons. It's hilarious.
It is. I mean, it's the same green color too. It is so weird that they thought
yellow.
that this is it yellow? I don't know. I watched it on a poorer quality.
I'll meet you in the middle. Let's say it was like a nasty, like puke greenish yellow.
Puke green. I think that's perfect. Puke green. So the cult pulls up, and Mr. Boogaloo is showing off the prize that he won from Eurovision from everyone, and Alfie and BB are like, "Oh, we got to go to the BIM party because they might want to sign us to a record deal."
Right.
And then Mr. Bim, his henchman that was, he had to come up with some BIM merchandise, comes up with the idea of essentially a triangle sticker that you can put anywhere on your body.
Wow, a sticker.
Yeah.
It's the future.
And
triangles in the future?
Mr. Boogaloo is like, everyone's doing this. Everyone put the triangle on right now. And you just see people in the party putting it on their forehead.
But they're totally on board with it too. Like,
yeah.
the way you phrase it makes it sound like that everyone's like, oh, okay. And they're kind of like begrudgingly doing it to please the boss. But everyone is totally on board with this. They think it's the coolest shit ever.
It is super, super weird.
Yeah.
And that's why I refer to it as a cult, because he's like the cult leader, right? And he's like, hey, everyone, let's go ahead and drink this poison Kool-Aid. And everyone's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They had the Kool-Aid hours ago. They're coming back for seconds.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. BB and Alfie finally show up to the party. BB is picked off by a guy named Pandy, who's played by he's not Pandy, he's Dandy, played by Alan Love. Sorry, some of these characters' names are so like same. It's hard to keep track of them.
Honestly, Alfie is the only character name I remember through this entire thing. I'm amazed that you remember as many as you do.
Because I will stop and look up what the character's name is if I can't figure it out. Like, I'll go through IMDb, I'll go through everything until I find the actor that matches up with the person.
It does not bode well for your movie if you've got to like stop it to go look up a reference material to see what your characters' names are.
Exactly. And the guy, Alan Love, who plays this character Dandy, hasn't really done anything else in his career. Nothing extremely notable. But he immediately picks off BB, and he's like, hey, let's go ahead and talk, and we'll get to know each other.
Really skeezy guy, for the record. He comes off, he kind of like forces his way between BB and Alfie, who I assume are a couple. They don't really come across and say it, but he kind of like swoops in and like kind of like tries to separate them and take her off into like a back room you just get really weird vibes from this guy.
Exactly. He has like the feathered back hair. He looks like an 80s, glam band guy.
Yeah, typical glam rock guy.
He gets BB up on the roof and he's like, hey, let's do some drugs. which she immediately does. No
Just take this
resistance.
pill. It won't hurt you.
And
Okay.
then after she takes the drugs, he forcibly kisses her. Because it's not canon without a little bit of rape.
It's not. Oh my god, you're absolutely right. And then we go right from a creepy date rapey kiss and drug routine to like this sappy romantic ballad.
Yeah.
Like the first like dance number we get that's not like an actual like, staged show. But it's like this supposed to be this like romantic thing where BB is singing about like, oh, I've never felt this way before, and I it feels so right, but I know it's wrong.
And
like
his dialogue is, "You're made for me, created for me, and I'm your king."
it's like the lyrics are so out of alignment with the music and the dancing and like the general kind of like happy romantic tone that they're trying to go for. But like again, he's like got date rapist written all over him.
It's the cult mentality of her showing fear and trepidation of what's going on, and him essentially reinforcing and repeating over and over again. Essentially, it's okay. I'm your king. Do what I say. You're made
Submit
for
to
me.
me.
You submit to me, right? And that's
Yeah.
why it's a total cult thing. And this is part of the reason why I think there's a good movie in here, Craig, because if this scene was better, if it actually showed him like seducing her and seducting her instead of the song being just bad, it would have worked so well. Essentially you have the innocent virgin BB being seduced by Dandy. God damn, I hate that name. But everything else that goes on in it, the party scene where you see a whole bunch of people just kind of like smoking cigars and doing awkward dances, it just doesn't work. The scene should be those two showing the conflict between each other instead of all the other asinine shit going on.
The conflict within her, because she's like seduced by being this big shot rock star and everything that Dandy has, but she also wants to stay true to herself. Like, these are all things that you and I know, and anyone else who would watch this movie would know because they've seen movies before. But it just beats you over the head with it in the lyrics. It's almost so on the nose.
It's almost like Menahem Golan has never seen a film before.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And he hasn't seen enough movies, so he feels like he has to over-explain everything that's going on and everything that these characters are thinking and feeling.
Everything is extremely on the nose. And then at the end of the song, Dandy kisses her, and Alfie immediately runs up and breaks the embrace. Essentially, like, gets the evil away from the virgin. And then we see another squad of Homer cars. In the nenext scene, it's daytime. Mr. Boogaloo is going into Boogaloo International Music, BIM.
Oh my god! I think this is like probably the first time you actually, as the audience, realize what BIM stands for, right?
Exactly.
Like, this is the first time you see it in print on like a sign,
and it's so quick. So if you missed it, good luck. I don't think they ever bring it up again.
It's funny you said that. I actually did pause it and rewound it to actually like read the sign to make sure I got it right.
You're like, what does that say? This might actually be important.
Yeah, like, well, that's the thing. Like, you and even up to this point, you hear them say what sounds like BIM, but even then, it's almost unintelligible when they're singing it in the song. Like, for a little bit there, I thought they were saying Jim or Gim. Like, I couldn't understand what they were saying.
I could see that.
It wasn't until I saw the sign that I like, oh, BIM, that's what they're saying.
BIM. It still doesn't really mean anything to me.
That explains nothing.
I still don't understand. So Alfie and BB are talking, and essentially Alfie's going, Americans have huge 100-page contracts. They're going to be super confusing. We shouldn't sign immediately if they give us a contract. BB is like, no, we need to do this immediately or else we might not be famous anymore, which I can get both points of view, right?
Yeah, strike while the iron's hot from her perspective, but he's like doesn't want to get screwed. He doesn't want to compromise the art by jumping into a crazy contract.
Exactly. And then they're in the waiting hall of BIM, which it looks like an airport. I don't know why. It just gives off like an airport vibe.
I was actually okay. I actually wrote that down too because I was actually wondering if they filmed this in an airport, like a small town airport, like a Midwest airport that wasn't actually no one wants to fly into it anyway, so they could just like lock it down for a couple days.
A good majority of this film was actually made in Germany. So you never know. This could be a German airport.
It's like East Berlin Airport.
So yeah, kind of weird. But the waiting room has like a cavalcade of idiots. You see a bunch of clowns, a guy in a wizard hat. He starts doing magic.
What kind of place? I mean, it's like their music. It's a record label, right? Like, what are all? It's like every like public and any kind of like artistic act is here. Like, yeah, you've got clowns and like fire spitters and jugglers and ballet dancers and like, what the hell is this place?
It almost seems like it's a catch-all at this point. BIM International Music isn't really just music. It's a conglomerate of all types of entertainment.
I guess, yeah.
It was really weird. All of a sudden, Alfie starts talking to this guy. His name is Dyatlov. The only reason it was such a notable name, and that's why I wrote it down. He's
like a vampire.
He's the manager of Ballet 2000.
That's right. Yeah.
Then wouldn't you know, we get another horrible dance sequence.
It's like this is like they give all of the bad songs to this poor big bad boss.
Yeah,
Bigelow,
which makes no sense.
A rap number.
It makes no sense that he's singing in the Ballet 2000 sequence. He's the manager that would be signing them. Why aren't we seeing them do something?
Yeah, like right? It should be a scene where they're trying to like wow him. They do this big dance number and then he kind of like hand waves it and maybe has like a musical retort to like, this is terrible trash, get out of my office. But no, he just teleports into the waiting room to have this rap number with the ballet dancers.
Exactly. But I will say, out of all the songs in the film, this is the one that I think has like the best. It's very on the nose for today's situation. And this is why another reason why I think this movie has the potential of being good if it was just done well. Mr. Bigelow. I keep on saying Deuce Bigelow. Mr. Boogaloo.
He is Mr. Deuce Bigelow now.
Mr. Deuce Bigelow. He's essentially singing a song about how life is nothing but show business in 1994, and we all die for the encore, which I think is very on the nose of Instagram, Twitch, OnlyFans life that we live in right now, where everyone wants to be somewhat famous, even if it's like their own. I mean, look at us podcasting. If it's only in their little corner of the world, everyone wants to obtain some kind of fame and will go out of their way in order to do it.
I can see that. Yeah. Like, I guess when you put it that way, that's maybe one of the few sort of like future predictions that didn't feel, what's the word? Like trite?
Yeah.
Or done better in this movie. Like, it's like the thing that they kind of got right.
Unfortunately, they don't go far enough with the song or the theme. They immediately drop it. Almost when the song is over, the idea of dying for fame and being famous is pretty much gonzo.
Yeah.
It's not like a Black Mirror episode where it's like, oh, you're famous. Now you have to like, kill a puppy to stay famous. And,
Yeah, it doesn't have that kind of like satisfying Twilight Zone kind of gut punch at the end.
Exactly.
I guess would have made this more, but no, instead we get tap dancing and jugglers.
Yeah. So Alfie and Bibi eventually, after another 5-minute number, get into Deuce Bigelow, Bim Gigolo's office, and they're immediately high pressured into signing separate contracts because it's the best for them. I love the lawyers' names. It's James Clark and Clark James of James Clark.
I noticed that too.
Lawyer group. That one actually got an audible chuckle from me. The one thing I also do like is that once they introduce that triangle jewel piece thing, everyone but Alfie and Bibi are wearing them. Even the lawyers are wearing them on there. So they did put enough thought to go like, we need to have to make sure that everyone is wearing this.
There's like the one talented person on this crew was like the set dresser in the court, like the person who's in charge of continuity. They knew what they were doing.
They actually did something right. So they're high pressured into doing it. Bim Gigolo is going, hey, you all have a dressing rehearsal at 5:00, and Alfie's like, that's 20 minutes from now. He's like, yeah, I guess you should sign those contracts then, huh?
Yeah, they're like totally talking about how like we've already sold your first album. You start going on tour like next week. They're like totally getting railroaded into what is like, again, these people are comically evil.
Yes,
and I guess it's just like musical logic where maybe that's a thing. See, I feel like I wish I had seen more musicals to more properly judge this. But it just seems so obvious that these are bad people and
yes.
they're railroading you into something bad.
It is extremely on the nose that they're bad. There's no doubt about it, and it becomes more and more blatantly obvious as time goes on.
This just came to me. He's got that goatee from the Mirror Universe in Star Trek.
He's got the goatee. He's got like the eyeliner, the dark eyeliner on that accentuates his eyes, and the very sharp cheekbones going on. He definitely looks like an evil person.
He just looks like Mr. Bad Guy. Yeah.
BB is wanting to sign the contract immediately. Alfie is a little apprehensive about doing it, which I can understand. BB pretty much immediately signs the contract, and then there's an earthquake and things are breaking, people are stumbling around, and then we realize Alfie just had a vision and there was actually no earthquake, and then he's pressured into signing again, and then a storm rolls in and like the city outside is burning, and we transform into another musical number.
Suddenly we're in hell, literally.
Again, there's a good movie in here. I do like this. I do. Don't get me wrong. The musical number is horrible. Everything about this,
so horrible.
A lot of
the singing is horrible.
Yes, but there is an idea here that is so good that you know what? The more and more I say that, Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves. And,
oh my god. Yeah, you're 100% right. And Al Pacino.
That's the movie.
I was just thinking that, like, and that's like, cause like, okay, we're in Deuce Bigelow, Bim Gigolo's office, right? And there's all of his cronies are in there, and they're getting like the high pressure pitch to sign this contract. Like his office should have looked like Al Pacino's office in Devil's Advocate, where like it's not like a comic book style hell set with rocks and fire and like red demons with pitchforks, which is basically what we got. But like if they dressed it up a little bit more with like some like redder like tones and maybe some kind of like weird art on the walls, like like exactly like Al Pacino's office in that movie in Devil's Advocate, like that would have gotten the point across that this is like that they were implying that this is sort of like hell and you're signing a deal with the devil.
Exactly.
But they just like beat you over the head with it, and it's just like so comically overdone.
It is. Because all of a sudden we're in this fantasy musical number where BB is dressed up as Eve. Alfie is dressed up as Adam. Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo, he's obviously the devil. He has like one gold horn. He has a cape on. His right-hand man is dressed up as the serpent, and they're trying to get BB to eat the apple. Which obviously the apple from the tree that Judas the snake conned Eve into eating, and which made us live this horrible life if you believe in the Bible and all that other jazz, right? They're the whole reason why we don't live in paradise for the rest of our lives.
It's so obvious. And actually, I didn't even notice that the Ruby Rod character was dressed up as a serpent. Oh my god.
Yep. He's dressed up as a serpent. It almost looks like he's just wearing this fucked up headpiece, but it is a serpent's head. And even Alfie is being seduced by another character named Dandy. She's kind of throughout the entire film. She doesn't really play a critical role in the beginning of it. But you see all these people, they're dressed up in costumes that look like demons or skeletons, and they're just thinking about how the apple is great and how you should be
Just
eating
take a
the
bite.
apple and take a bite, give into sin, essentially.
Oh my god.
Very on the nose, which again, if they pulled it back a little bit, it probably wouldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, if they didn't have a literal fucking apple. Oh my god,
They
like
have this 5-foot apple or something like that they're holding.
oh, it's huge.
And they're just putting it in front of BB going like, take a bite.
Take a bite. Like, I mean, the contract, right? Like that's the apple.
Yep.
That should have been the apple. That's the symbol for giving in to the temptation, signing your soul away to get some riches and some fame. Like that's where that should have stopped. But no, we get a horrible like high school play set of hell with red lights and demons and a literal goddamn apple.
Yep. It's really weird. It could have been so much better.
Yeah.
Then we transport back into real life. Alfie throws a contract at Mr. Bigelow and storms out while BB is surrounded by her adoring fans, or her flock, her new cult that she's bought into.
Right.
Dandy and Pandy, they tell her, whether you like it or not, you are now a part of the BIM family. So essentially, like, you're part of this cult. You're in it now.
Yeah, very cultish. The whole idea of referring to it as a family.
And then we get another musical number where Mr. Bigelow is saying that how he's the master and he gets slaves.
Right. Okay. I wanted to make sure that I heard that right, because again, this poor boss, they give him the worst music. This one's like a reggae song, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a reggae beat to it, but I wanted to make sure I heard that line right. So do they say slaves are guaranteed when you know how to be a master?
Yes. He's essentially like, I know how to be the master. I know how to give and take. I know when to be nice and I know when to be mean. Slaves are given when you know how to be a master.
God, that is just, it makes me feel dirty.
It does. And I get what he's trying to say. He's essentially like, getting followers is easy if you know how to dupe people into being a cult leader or
exactly
buying into your religion.
Yeah,
right?
if you know how to manipulate people, exactly like you said, like it's easy to kind of pull the wool over people's eyes, which is like to your point before, like that's kind of that's an interesting commentary, I guess, on showbiz, but again, it's just like this is like a really repeated theme through us. It's so lacking in subtlety.
And it could again, we say this throughout the entire, it could have been done better, because while the song is going, we see BB doing stuff like she's working out, she's singing.
Yeah.
Not once does she look uncomfortable doing literally anything.
Nope, she's loving it. This is kind of like, it doubles as that montage where you see her, like, after she signs her soul away, like, you see the montage afterwards where you kind of see her, like, transform into this famous pop star that she's, like, always wanted to be. Like, this is the kind of, like, the early glitz and the glam before it all kind of turns sour. Like, that's what this, this is the purpose this serves.
One of the lines is, with bodies to buy and souls to sell. So it's him buying her body and getting her, and she's selling her soul.
Wink, wink. He's the devil.
Get it?
Get it now?
Evil. But yeah, it keeps going on. We see her getting glitz and glammed, and then eventually she debuts in her new rock uniform where she has like purple hair and a purple outfit, and she's like, "Oh, I love working for Mr. Boogaloo." And Mr. Boogaloo is going, she's about to start her coast to coast tour
to the West Coast,
and
which
then
they refer to a couple times in a really weird way.
I think it's like the allurement of maybe
Hollywood.
It's for like foreign people, right? Where they're like, oh, the West Coast, California, Hollywood, that's where you go to become big.
Yeah.
And man, if you wanted another song, you get it immediately. It's a song about speed, the drug, and how America's popping pills to get that energy.
And you think she's sung in metaphors? No, they literally say, speed is awesome, gotta have speed.
Yes. This is the worst song in the entire movie, and it goes on for maybe like 4 minutes. The
Yeah.
dancing is boring. The singing is boring. Everything about this scene is extremely boring.
I actually, so I differ with you there a little bit. I thought I'm thinking like strictly musically, like aside from the bad dancing and the bad lyrics, this was like I thought was one of the better songs in terms of like melody and beat. It was a little bit more like I don't know. It was kind of more disco-y. Maybe I'm just a weirdo who likes disco, so that's why I like the song. That's probably what it
I like
is.
the
But
Star Wars disco. Love that.
yeah, like I don't know. I thought this one was okay, and like you said before, if nothing else, one of the things that this movie does right is it gives you lots of songs. They're not great, but it's not like it delivers on the musical part of its genre. It's constantly throwing music at you. So
Are you ready? Yeah, I'm gonna probably strike a few bad chords here with some people.
oh
It's
boy.
the Robin Williams style of comedy. If you tell jokes fast and furious, it doesn't matter how many don't land, you're only gonna remember the ones that do land.
That's true because if something like, and yeah, maybe I could see that being controversial, but I see what you mean here because like you get so many songs in this, you can't spend enough time to dwell on how weird and bad any of them are because
Exactly.
you're already onto a new one. And God, like again, we talked about how the one before this had like a reggae feel. There was sort of like a hip hop R&B version before. There's been disco and kind of like glam rock. They've purposefully tried to hit all the genres. So there's bound to be something in this movie that sort of speaks to your musical tastes.
Yeah.
I guess I give them credit for that.
They definitely tried. They went out of their way to try a whole bunch of different styles. And
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. Because usually like in a musical, you're going into like a certain genre of music, pretty much like the entire film. In
Right,
fact,
kind of show tunesy.
most musicals start off with it's a mix of melodies throughout the entire film that you'll hear, and it sets the tone for the
Right.
type of music. There's a certain term for it, but
Yeah, again, I wish we were bigger musical experts because I feel like we would be able to more properly hate on this movie if we
yes,
were really like musical experts. Because I can only imagine what like people who actually work in show business and write and produce quality like musical theater would probably literally die while watching this music.
for
While watching
sure.
this movie. Yeah.
I mean, because right now it's really just us going the reggae bad, like
Bad music, bad lyrics,
bad,
but they would
yeah.
just be like pull it apart to the bone.
It's definitely something else. We cut to, I guess, the real world where it's this dystopian type future in which the cops are controlled by BIM because they're about
Yeah.
to give this woman a fine for not wearing the triangle sticker.
Yeah, this was kind of a big jump. I mean,
Yeah.
it persists through the rest of the movie, but like up to this point, we think that BIM is just kind of a generic like evil record company in the way that we might recognize.
Yeah.
But at the like right when we hit the scene, and yeah, like we see this guy who's like obviously in this, Nazi Gestapo type of an outfit and giving her like a ticket for not having the BIM triangle on her. Like it comes out of nowhere. Like this company is way more evil and powerful than you think.
Exactly. It's nothing ever let on for us to believe that BIM had any kind of control or that the Bigelow Boogaloo character was, obviously he's the proxy for the devil, that he had any control outside of his organization. So it's kind of shocking when
Yeah.
we see that he actually controls the government.
Yeah, he's apparently like not only is he the devil, he's also Hitler.
Yeah.
Yay!
So
Thanks, movie.
the old lady, she gets the fine and then she goes home and Alfie's there. And I'm like, oh, this must be his mom. But we quickly
Yeah,
find out that it's not. At least I hope to God
we
it's
hope
not,
not.
because Alfie fondles her breasts in a jokingly manner.
Oh my god!
But the old woman's like, hey, you need to go sell your music because you owe me money for rent.
This is
And
like that part where he does that, and it like I don't even remember what the joke was. It was just so uncomfortable to see this guy fondling this poor woman. But like this is the part in the movie that made me feel the most like this was made by someone who doesn't understand American humor or humor in general.
Yeah.
Like it's like something that an alien would think that humans would find funny, but it's just actually creepy.
This is human humor.
You like human?
She's singing the song that they were singing on stage. And he comes up behind her and goes, I know you had a heart in that big bosom of yours. And then grabs her boobies and starts shaking them around.
Oh God, that makes. I feel like there's nothing that can make it not as bad, but that just somehow makes it worse.
Yeah. So.
Oh, by the way, before I forget.
Yeah.
Did you recognize this actress from anywhere?
No. Is this like an actual actor
person?
It
is. She's been in a lot, but she was actually okay. This I'm like really showing my like weirdo geek cred here, but she played Professor Sprout in the Harry Potter movies.
No way.
She absolutely did, and I don't know if I think she's a British actress, but she's been in a lot of stuff.
Miriam Margolyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always the people that I'm like, this isn't anyone that actually turns out to be somebody.
I get maybe this must have been earlier in her career or something, but yeah, she's got a lot of credits.
She does. This is actually very earlier in her career. But yeah, look at that. She is in the Harry Potter films, Professor Pomona Sprout.
Yeah. And she and what was really surprising about this is like this movie is full of people doing bad accents for like regional accents that they didn't grow up with, but she has this kind of like Italian Brooklyn kind of accent in this.
Yeah.
And it's like perfect. But she's got this like really thick British accent in real life. Like I remember seeing her videos of her, like she's like a host, like a guest on the Graham Norton show a couple times. And she's got like such a thick British accent. I'm amazed how well she does in this movie.
She's actually a proper actress.
Exactly.
I wonder how they afforded her.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess she's just a nobody then, and they managed to snag her.
True. So then Alfie serenades her with another song. It's another sappy love song, acoustic. Essentially, how they're all trapped in their web of lies throughout their life, and then he's sulking in the park, and a police officer comes up to him and goes, "You're not wearing a BIM mark. I'm going to give you a ticket." And then just like another insane scene of there's these squawk boxes around the world, or at least in this area, and they're going in 40 seconds. Everyone has to do BIM exercise for an hour.
The National BIM Hour.
And you see firefighters stop putting out a fire. You see traffic stopping. You see surgeons stopping. And then the BIM song comes on and they all start dancing.
Oh my God. It's like the mandatory BIM fitness hour. All citizens must comply. And then again, this isn't one of those cases where you'd think that they would like cut to a couple people who are like doing it out of fear and clearly uncomfortable with it. Everyone just loves this shit. Everyone that they show is like having a great time. It's so tone deaf. It makes no sense.
This part was definitely, I think, like the worst in the entire film, because now BIM is controlling so much more of people's lives. It's just really weird. And then we cut to Alfie. He's outside of a music hall, and then BB comes out. And even despite there being this huge crowd of people, BB is able to hear Alfie and see him. And like they make a connection where Alfie's like, please, or BB's like, please help me. And BB's like, no, I getting the characters mixed up. BB is like, please help me. And Alfie's like, I will. And then Pandy comes out of nowhere and they get into a little scuffle. And then there's these two security guards who have like pig teeth.
Oh yeah, like the two like pig looking guys. They're like bald guys with like underbites and fangs. I guess they're, again, it's right on the nose. Oh, these are pigs. They're, they look like the Gamorrean guards from Return of the Jedi.
They do. And they beat the shit out of Alfie, and Bigelow just walks by him and essentially was like, didn't learn your lesson the first time. And then we see BB. She's looking sad and she's kind of like, oh, I miss Alfie. And then they have a song where BB's like, I miss you, Alfie. Cry for me. And Alfie's like, I miss you, BB. I need your love. And this goes on for like 4 minutes. Every song is 4 to 5 minutes.
They're like, like you get like they're getting their money's worth with for whoever they paid to write these songs, because they're like full songs.
Yeah.
But their lyrics are just shit again. Like, it's all so obvious. I think I wrote down some of the lines from this song because they were like, this one really got my eyes rolling. It was like, she says something like your love was no match for their evil, and I wish I was dead, and I should just end it all.
Really weird. Very, very weird. Oh God, this is if Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype was a bad comedy, and like I don't like, that one was unwatchable in my opinion. This one's at least watchable. It's just so disappointing to watch it. Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype made me angry watching it. This frustrated me because I go, there's so much more that could have happened.
I'm definitely more on the former, where I think I actively found myself hating this movie. my eyes were constantly rolling, and they like this. I think we're probably like halfway through the movie at this point where she realizes, oh geez, I made a mistake.
Yep.
And this whole like ballad is happening. Like, I think I actually said out loud, like, oh fuck you. Like, I just felt like so manipulated. I don't know. I just like actively hated this because they're just like beating you over the head with this stuff.
It is, again, there's no subtlety in the entire thing. It is 100% what you see is what you get.
Yeah, oh yeah, for better or worse.
So Alfie gets back, and his landlady, hopefully not his mom, is essentially going like, hey, if you want BB, go out and get her. And that's exactly what Alfie does. He goes to Mr. Boogaloo's house, and he starts getting seduced by Bambi. It doesn't matter. He starts getting seduced by a woman, and he starts drinking something, and it's obscuring his vision. And he starts seeing like double, but he doesn't stop drinking it.
It's future booze. It's green. Wow.
Meanwhile, Mr. Bigelow, he has like the devil horn now. His makeup, he has like this red eyeshadow thing going on. He's looking more and more like the devil.
And has like a Dracula cape, I think, too.
He does have a Dracula cape.
That like red lining.
Yeah. It is really weird. We see, it's the sex song where the girl's like, you fill me up with fire. If you come and fill me up, I'll come and fill you up. Let's come.
Oh my God. Like, I was gonna make that joke where like you said, oh, this is the sex song. I was like, gee, what gave it away?
Yeah. They use the word come as in like, why don't you come over here? But obviously they're talking about something totally different.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think like the one line that from this song that I wrote down was, I'll take you deeper and deeper and drain every drop of your love.
Yes.
Like, Jesus Christ. First of all, like this was the first song that I was thinking like, who is this audience? Like, what audience are they going for here? Because you've just lost any kind of like family friendly, sheen on this movie that you might have had before. This totally took it over the edge of being appropriate for kids.
It is not, it's not mom horror safe, right? It's not like mom musical safe. And it's not far enough to where someone like me would go like, oh, I want to watch this. It's the lyrics are not tame, but the visuals are.
Yes. Yeah, like I'm glad you brought up like the callback to mom horror, which we talked about in some of our previous episodes. Like, that's a really good thing to bring up here, because up to this point, it's all been very kind of like safe, I guess is the word. Like, nothing is too vulgar, and it's sort of like the whole theme that they're beating over the head with is like, things were just swell back in the good old days when everything was wholesome and everyone was nice and music was about nice love songs and just everything was so wholesome. And like, it totally plays up to that point, but then they swing way too far into like making the bad people look like trying to show the debauchery of this evil record company, like way too far for like, you're losing your target audience here.
Exactly. No one who is into musicals wants to see a musical like this.
No, just what this movie needed is guys in banana hammocks, sequiny banana hammocks.
It's really, it's It's so weird. And then so Alfie and this woman, they have sex, and during the sex we see in his fantasy that BB is having sex with Pandy. So there's a lot of sex going on right now, but there's nothing too scandalous to see here. Just a lot of
No.
greens and reds and like kaleidoscope vision. Very odd.
That's true. I don't think we don't get any nudity in
None.
this, right? Not in this movie. And I was thinking back to this scene. I couldn't remember if some of the background actors might have been naked, but I think that had like really skimpy underwear on.
It is very tame for a canon film. And then Alfie wakes up and he's met by Jesus Christ our Lord
Dumpster Santa.
in a field, and he takes him to go live with some hippies,
Oh God.
which
And
was
it's like
really
they're
weird.
they're not even like in a lot of the stuff in this movie, they sort of give it that kind of goofy. It's what you were familiar with, but in the future, and it's like the same thing, just with like like colored glass and things like that. Like it's got this like goofy future sheen to it. They didn't even try with this hippie
No.
commune. They literally just look like hippies out of like they're almost caricatures.
It's
The tie-dye shirts and everything.
it's kind of like the hippies in South Park. They're all sitting around a field. They're all just smoking grass and
In drum
drinking
circles.
and in drum circles. It's really weird.
So that's kind of bizarre to me because the up to this point, again, they're sort of like glorifying this like the wholesome good old days, but it seems like they're also at this point glorifying like hippie culture, which doesn't like that seems a little at odds with what they were going for before. Because like again, you see in the scene that they're all like spaced out on shrooms or marijuana or something. Like this seems kind of like debaucherous and non-wholesome, but just in a different way than the Evil Record Company. It didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me.
It doesn't make sense because they never set up anything in the prior 70 minutes to make you think that there's some sub counterculture going on in the background.
Right. And that it's like a
wants
positive
freedom.
force.
Yeah. So no, it doesn't make any sense. Like a lot of things in this movie, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense.
Yes.
Eventually the police come and bust up Jesus and his flock of hippies.
Hippie disciples.
And then we cut back and Pandy is trying to get BB out of the clutches of Mr. Big Boogaloo.
He's just Mr. Bigelow now.
Yeah, because
we've arrived.
Pandy, after having sex with Alfie, has had a change of heart and she feels different inside and she wants BB to have freedom.
Oh my God.
For out of nowhere, BB just leaves. There was absolutely no resistance in her escaping.
No, well, that's the thing. Like this is the other part that was kind of offensive in a way. Like this, yeah, like the evil pop star lady has like had a complete change of heart out of nowhere, and like you realize that it was just banging Alfie that made her like see the light. Like these women who had the wool pulled over their eyes, like they had to like. It was like a dude who had to show them the light. It's like they have no agency of their own.
Are you saying that Alfie has a magic wiener?
I think I am.
Now that's a movie I am ready
that's
to
the movie
see.
We want to see.
Alfie's Magic Wiener. It's a
like,
musical, folks.
Yeah. It's just like that, like low-key sexism that's kind of in a lot of movies. But again, like everything else in this movie, it's so on the nose. Like, oh, I just needed to bang the right dude, and I suddenly see I've been evil and wrong this whole time.
Low-key
and she like helps her escape.
sexism in movies? Are you kidding me? I've never seen that before.
Are you being sarcastic, man?
What's Live and Let Die? Do you remember that Roger Moore James Bond film? The one where the woman is a virgin. Jane Seymour is a psychic in James Bond's love interest, but Jane Seymour's character is a virgin. And the only reason that she has this psychic ability is because she's a virgin. And then James Bond comes there and just fucks her with his magic wiener, and she loses her psychic powers because he's a man.
Oh God, yeah. Somehow it seems a little bit better in a James Bond movie than it does here.
Mainly because this one has Yaphet Kotto, and he's awesome.
Heck yeah.
But Bambi is now singing how she's changed, and it's essentially like, Alfie had sex with me. She showed me true love, and now my eyes are open, and I can see the light.
All of which she says word for word, by the way. Like,
Yes.
I've changed. I've seen the light. I was so wrong. I've found myself. I've opened my eyes. Like every cliche you can think of.
We could write these. These are the songs that I randomly sing, just because the words rhyme and they make somewhat sense. And I have no musical talent. This is someone who wrote these down and was like, these are bangers.
This is gold. Yeah, like this is I'm glad you said that. Like that's actually a really good way to describe the lyrics in these. It's like these are songs that you would come up with, the songs that you would ad lib in the shower.
Yeah. Here we go. I miss life. I miss my wife. I was lost, but now I'm found. Through the shade of mystery. Oh, how has evil blinded me? See, those are the kinds of songs that are in this movie. And I just made that up. But these are songs that someone wrote down and was like, we're going to put these in a movie.
See, people who are listening now, all two of you, the pain that you felt hearing us sing that Mad Lib song, that's what we felt the entire time watching The Apple.
Exactly.
It's a whole movie of random people you don't know ad-libbing songs.
Ad-lib songs. Eventually, BB finds Jesus under a bridge. And he's like, hey, come over here in the forest with me. I know some hippies. And she does exactly that. Now, if you thought this was weird, it's the time jump that makes it weirder.
It
BB and
really
Alfie
goes off the rails at this point.
BB and Alfie meet each other, and then it fades away to just the next scene. There is no block text 1 year later.
We gotta pump the brakes a little bit, because this is another bit of like beat you over the head symbolism that I wanted to touch on here. The hippies are literally underground. They've gone underground.
Oh shit, I didn't even think about that, Greg.
Oh my God, Dumpster Santa. And then also the other thing is like this BB, this character is such a ditz. And it's so like, it just, oh my God, it bothers the shit out of me. Like she, not only did she take a pill from some random glam rock strange in the beginning, she follows this guy who looks like a crazy homeless dude who she meets under a scary bridge, by the way, and follows him into the cave.
Exactly.
What?
She needs she needs people's affirmations. She is the perfect cult follower.
She really is. And like she needs a guy. She needs a man to show her what to do, whether he's scary evil David Bowie or Dumpster Santa or like wholesome Bob Denver. Doesn't matter who he is or what he's pitching, she's buying.
Yep. Hey, did you say that you're gonna give me drugs? I'll go in, baby.
Take this pill, it won't hurt you.
All right. So here's the thing, Greg. We can either finish the movie and then I can tell you something about the movie, or I can tell you something about the movie right now and then we can finish the movie.
Outside the movie trivia?
Inside the movie trivia. It might actually make you understand the ending that's about to happen.
Okay. Yeah, lay it on me.
All right. So, The Apple, when they were actually making the film, as you probably heard us talking, The Apple is almost it's a metaphor for Adam and Eve, the devil and God, and stuff like that, right? As you can tell from eating the apple.
And it is so obvious.
Yes. So originally the film began with a sequence in which God, aka Mr. Tops, a character we're about to see, creates the world. And he actually sings a song called Creation and begins creating life, including Alfie and BB, who are Adam and Eve. And he also sings a song with Mr. Boogaloo, who is the devil, who ultimately falls into a stream and disappears. The issue, though, that this scene was extremely complicated. It included live animals, humans, puppets, and people in costumes in a small set. And there was a lot of issues with this because a tiger got loose at one point. Elephants were getting their trunks stuck in set pieces. There was a brontosaurus costume in which the people inside all passed out due to
what a disaster
due to the heat. And just the restrictive size of the set proved difficult for the dancers and the cameras. So they totally removed this scene and didn't replace it with anything.
Wow. Okay, so let's look at where first what I was thought where you were going to go with that was they had this grand opening, but it was too expensive and they didn't want to shell out the cash for it.
They had this grand opening and they made it. And
they actually like attempted it and they just failed miserably.
They scrapped it.
Oh my God.
And instead of I've heard of this before in movies where like this was the original planned beginning or sequence, but something fell through and like we had to go back and change it. There's always the rumored ending for the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man film where it was supposed to be Spider-Man and the Green Goblin fighting up at the World Trade Center, but 9/11 happened, so they had to cut that entire sequence, and that's why it changed to the cable car sequence, and that's why it seems a little more rushed because they had to make it really quick, and it kind of just doesn't jive with the rest of the film. There was actually there was a teaser for the Spider-Man film in which they used the World Trade Center, and he like had a giant web,
where
he caught a helicopter that people were using to rob a bank.
Towers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, this has definitely happened before in films where it's just failed, but they try to replace it with something.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like in the Spider-Man example, you could conceivably replace that final battle because it like whether they fight on a skyscraper or they fight on a subway, like it doesn't really matter where they're fighting as long as they're like cool set pieces that they could use. It's just an action scene. It's not like central to the plot. They can still say the things that they need to say to progress the characters.
Exactly.
But they could do that anywhere. Whereas what you just described, and I dare say it would have made the movie a little bit better because like it would explain a whole lot and it would almost excuse some of the obviousness of the rest of the movie because it would set it up to be sort of like a biblical parallel, which has been done before and done well. And it would, like I said, I think it might have made this movie a little bit better if you kind of they set that expectation up front.
Exactly.
With that scene you just described. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that also explains where Mr. Tops comes from, so we should probably, I guess, get into that.
So here's the last 8 minutes of the movie. The hippies are all singing and swaying back side to side. We see Alfie. He's got a beard now. Jesus is in the middle of the camp and he kind of stands up and all the BIM soldiers come out. And they're like, where is BB? We have essentially like, shit, what do they say? It's like a lawsuit against BB. She owes them $1 million.
Like she's gone back on her contract.
Exactly.
In breach of contract.
So Mr. Boogaloo is dressed up in his devil costume and we
surrounded
see his
by Gestapo, like obvious like Nazi SS uniforms, trench coats and hats and everything.
Exactly. We see his right hand man. He looks normal and then it quick cuts. He's in the serpent costume. And then we see Mr. Bigelow with the devil horn and stuff like that. So obviously this is the devil come to roost to get his due. Jesus is essentially like, it's been a year. A year has now passed. The child that they're holding is theirs, and this child is like 4 years old. It's fucking
definitely
huge.
Not like a under 1 year old.
Yeah. So they're all gonna get arrested because they don't want to give up BB. And then out of the sky, a Rolls Royce pulls up, and Jesus Christ himself appears on Earth. And essentially he goes, I'm gonna rapture people. All the hippies come with me. And Mr. Boogaloo is like, essentially he goes, but I'm the devil and you need me. And Jesus Christ goes, no, I don't. I'm going to find another planet where they teach evolution. And they all get raptured.
They walk off into the sky on a really shitty green screen effect.
And then it says the apple. Now, do you know who Jesus was?
I've heard of him.
Josh?
Sounds familiar.
Oh, the actor. not do you know who Jesus is? The actor who plays him is Josh Ackland, who is from the Mighty Ducks. He's the old man from the Mighty Ducks.
Is he Hans?
He's Hans.
Oh.
He's also the guy from Lethal Weapon 2 who goes, diplomatic immunity.
I knew his voice sounded really familiar. I didn't recognize his face, but Mr. Tops. I feel like we glossed over that too much. Like the last, like you said, 8 or 9 minutes of this movie, it just goes off the fucking rails. And it's like they try to they throw so much new stuff at you so fast. Like the fact that a whole year has passed, they've been singing and swaying in these woods for a whole year. They've not only come out from underground, they've been living in the woods for a year. They've had a kid. Alfie has grown a really shitty fake beard.
Yes.
And there's this person, Mr. Tops is coming, and you're just like getting whiplash from all this new shit. And like, who is Mr. Tops?
You're right. I did forget that. Alfie at one point goes, Mr. Tops is coming. There's nothing that leads on.
No, like they don't. Again, I mean, maybe you needed that scene, or there's no maybe about it. You needed that scene from the beginning to establish this Mr. Tops character. And even like name dropping him along the way a little bit throughout the movie to like make reference that there's this like anti Mr. Bigelow.
Yeah. I guess, maybe they should have hinted at Mr. Tops throughout the entire film. Or maybe Mr. Tops should have been performing some kind of miracle. But out of nowhere, Alfie, while they're all walking in this giant congregation, is like, don't worry, Mr. Tops is coming. He's going to save us.
Yeah.
How the hell would he know that? There's not a moment in which there's like, where Jesus is like, wow.
No, Phil, that happens in the year. That's what we missed that. Like we didn't need to see that.
That's like an important year.
a lot of big shit happened that year.
I didn't even think of it because I think I was so mesmerized by just how quickly everything ended that I didn't really sit there and think too much about the implications of everything that was happening.
That's the Robin Williams style storytelling where you just throw a bunch of shit so fast that you don't have time to dissect it. Gold Rolls Royce rolling out of the clouds. Don't think about it. It's Space God.
I definitely didn't. I was so guffawed of the entire endeavor at the end. I was just kind of like, what is going on here?
What is going on? Yeah. Again, I'll the word whiplash, I'll say again, is like that's how I felt with this whole last couple minutes where it's just like one bad, obvious visual metaphor after another.
Yeah. Damn. Didn't think about that. How would he know about Mr. Tops? But that's the apple for you.
That is the apple.
And this one did fall far from the tree. I'm going to go ahead. I gave it 2 stars. I'm
not surprised. Based on how you've kind of talked about it before, you definitely saw more of a nugget. You didn't think that Cora was quite as rotten as I did. So I can see from how you described it, I can see a 2 stars coming from you on that.
What did you give it? Please.
Oh, it was a hard one.
Yes.
I and I've said in previous episodes where I feel like I reserve the really like 1 to 0 star ratings. And this wasn't quite a 0. Like it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty fucking bad. And like, what I was going to say is like, I reserve those low scores for movies that I actively hate, or I think are trying to manipulate me in some way, in a way that like all movies will manipulate you in some way through music or visual storytelling or some way to make you feel something. It was just so obvious. And it was, to quote Always Sunny in Philadelphia, done with the subtlety of a baboon.
Nice.
It just makes me hate the movie. And I hate it. Like I wasn't bored, and which is why I won't give it that 0 stars. Like I was at least not bored watching this. It was one of those movies I like to kind of hate on. It was a fun to hate kind of movie for me.
It was definitely something.
It was something. It was an experience.
Unlike Troll 2, where I don't think there's too many redeeming factors. This one, like, again, it had a couple things going for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's the people did a lot of work. I'll say that. Like, there's a lot of work that went on behind the scenes. I can tell. Like, there's a lot of probably like dance talent and choreography and you could tell that there were like talented people who were in it and did work on it, but it was not the plot and the writing did it no favors. Like, it didn't let the dancing and the singing shine
Exactly.
the way it might, in a way that it might have otherwise.
Yep. Nope. I 100% agree with you. There's a lot more that could have been done to make this. Honestly, if they cut out every musical number, the movie would have been way better. If they spent a little more time on the writing, honestly, if the movie wasn't a musical, it probably would have been way better.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, like, and I'm glad you described that scene when you did, the one that they cut in the beginning, because like there are a lot of movies out there that try to tell like a Bible story in sort of like a modern frame. And either they'll say it like, either it's overt, like, oh, this is Jesus and Mary and Joseph and like all those like Bible characters that we all know, but it's done so much better. And actually what this reminded me of a lot was that Jesus Christ Superstar movie that they made out of the musical in I think it was the 70s.
The 70s, yeah.
Yeah, where like it's like it started off kind of old, but like the Romans have like guns and stuff, and it's got this sort of like modern dressing to it. And that's what this might have been, but that was done so much better. That's one of my favorite musicals of all time. And this just tried, I feel like, to be that and failed horribly.
100%. It flew too close to the sun. It tried to be something more than it could have been. And because of that, it's a spectacular failure, because you can see the effort in every frame. And
yeah,
it's so sad when someone tries so hard to do something and it just fails.
And I think that's why, I think that's what makes, it's like the hallmark of a really bad movie, is the more effort that they put in, it's all that much sweeter when they fail.
Yeah.
Like it makes it kind of an interesting puzzle, because you are constantly wondering, like, what were they thinking?
What was Joel Schumacher thinking when he made that Batman movie? Why did he do that?
I think that's why, even though I hated watching this movie, but it was one of those things you love to hate and can't look away from, because it's like an intellectual puzzle that you want to try and unravel. Like, what were they thinking when they wrote this, when they acted the way that they did, when they said it the way that things that they said. It was just an interesting puzzle.
I 100% think everyone should watch this movie and have a good conversation about it. There is a good conversation about this movie that anyone can have, whether you want to go along with the Bible stuff or you want to just talk about how sad it is to see a movie with such a high caliber, everything.
A high budget, for sure.
Fail.
You can definitely tell that this had a much higher budget than a lot of canon movies.
It was a $10 million budget in 1980. So I think that is a pretty big budget. Let's bust out the old inflation calculator.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we need a comparison
here. Just like how we converted dollars to murders in one movie. I actually just got done like editing that one. Where we're like, if murders were dollars and we converted it, it would have been a $31 million movie now. Not like a blockbuster, but I mean, for a musical that would have like little special effects, that's a pretty decent budget.
Look up the what's another like modern? Look up the budget for those Mamma Mia movies that came out recently.
Mamma Mia, here we go again. My. Now they have like huge actors in it, but yeah, Mamma Mia was only $52 million.
Right. Okay. So so this movie was probably, they didn't have like big names in it. So 30, whatever you said, yeah, that budget sounds about right for a musical.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, Mamma Mia has Meryl Streep. She was probably like $20 million of that budget.
Yeah, I think Cher was in that too, wasn't she?
She was in one of them. Yeah. Pierce Brosnan, Colin Firth, Stellan Skarsgård. We're not talking about Mamma Mia. So,
but that's a good comparison.
It is.
And those are like those movies are really popular, and I haven't seen them, so I don't know why. But the fact that I could kind of hum some music from them, and I can't hum any music from the Apple, I feel like that says something. So,
please watch this movie. Are you ready for some trivia really quick? about the
Yeah, let's
movie
do it.
in general. So the movie was originally going to cost $4 million, and the budget shot up to $10 million. In the editing of the film, Menahem Golan and the editor got into such disagreements about the editing of the film
Oh boy.
that they got into fist fights over it. Menahem also excised a good portion of the script, in which a lot of it took place in heaven, which would have set up a lot of the stuff that happened down on Earth.
Yeah, geez. Like, again, if you're gonna go with like a Bible story, like lean into that a little bit. Make it.
They wanted to make it less religious. That was the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it still felt pretty religious towards the end. Like, I feel like you should do like, shit or get off the pot, man.
Shit or get off the pot. During the debut of the film, when it was first screened, halfway through it, people were booing and audibly upset at the film. And Menahem Golan was there. He actually went back to his hotel room where he contemplated jumping off the balcony. The only reason why he didn't kill himself is because someone came into his hotel room and actually like prevented him from killing himself. So Menahem he was so aware of how bad the film was, he was about to kill himself because of it. During a festival screening. During the actual screenings of the film, I guess people were given souvenirs. There are accounts of people throwing their free souvenirs from the Apple at the movie screens and destroying the screen in certain theaters.
Yikes!
People were they upset. I don't know. That would be great.
Because they're kind of heavy. You could do some damage to a silver screen that way.
That is great.
Yeah, that stuff like that's never great to hear, and that's one of the kind of negatives to enjoying a good bad movie, because like I said before, like the ones that are really memorably bad movies are the ones that people sort of like poured their heart and soul into and they failed, and that's what makes it so interesting. But at the same time, there's that other part of it, like someone had to have their dreams crushed to have that happen, and it kind of goes in a bunch of different directions. Like you see here some people who like directed some of these bad movies in the 80s, or like guys like what's his name from The Room, where they like sort of try to get in on the joke and sort of like kind of are okay with it in later years. But the fact, like you said, that he went to a hotel room and like contemplated suicide because he was so crushed that people didn't like his masterpiece, that's never great to hear.
The movie was nominated for Worst Picture, but it lost that award to Popeye.
Hey, speaking of Robin Williams.
Yeah, speaking of Robin Williams, in 2006, it was re-released where it was nominated for the Worst Picture again. It received 6 other nominations, 2 of which were Worst Director and Least Special Effects.
Interesting.
It was also nominated for Worst Screenplay, Worst Song, both BIM and Universal Melody, and Most Intrusive Musical Score.
Most intrusive. Wait, so I might have missed it. Were those Razzies, or did they not exist?
Kind of
yet?
Essentially like the Razzies, just like the worst movie awards.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not sure if you did any research about this. Like, have they interviewed any people like in modern times? Because like I feel like there's like been a resurgence of people appreciating kind of good bad cult movies, and they usually try to trot out some of the actors and say like, hey, what was it like working on this crazy movie? What do you think of it?
Catherine Mary Stewart, who played BB in it, spoke about the movie, in which she was upset that she wasn't able to sing in it because she was actually taking singing classes for the film.
Oh, geez, and they replaced it after.
But she did go on to do another movie in which she was able to sing in it. That's kind of like what I read from her. A lot of the other people, it sounds like it's not like they're ashamed of it, but they're acutely aware that they were in a really, really bad movie. Nigel Lythog, who was the choreographer for it, described making the Apple as really, really depressing on some days and very, very stressful, and that he didn't like the script. He went on to work on American Idol, which, go fucking figure, is pretty much what the Apple was about, right?
Yeah, right.
Wanting to get fame.
I guess good for him for like having a career after that.
Yeah. So it was definitely it was definitely weird. Even nowadays, when it gets re-reviewed or gets re-looked at, people are like, "This is obviously trying to be the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but it's just a complete failure."
Yeah, that was going to be one of my other questions. Was like, does it live up to that kind of Rocky Horror Picture Show? Where like it's I think this is just so bad that it can't kind of make that transformation. Because I think that's going back to The Room. Like that's what that guy tried to do. What was it? What was his name? Who did The Room?
Tommy Wiseau.
Tommy Wiseau, like where he like sort of tried to like change the reputation. Like, oh, I meant to do that. I meant for it to be like a funny, bad mock the movie out loud in the screening kind of thing. Like, I don't think you could do that with the Apple. I think it's just so bad. I don't think you could make that transformation for a movie like this.
No, I don't think you could possibly try to dupe someone into thinking that they
intended
to do this.
Yeah, no way. It's like, oh, it's a fun party movie. Go make fun of it with your friends. Like, no.
You know what?
Tried to make something good and you failed.
Here's another unpopular opinion. I don't think the Rocky Horror Picture Show is that great. It has one good song in it.
Yeah. I'll throw out another unpopular opinion. I haven't actually seen it all the way through.
There you go. It's really long. I don't think it's one of those films where if you watch it with a group, it's definitely way better than the parts of the movie is better than the sum. I guess isn't that the saying?
Yeah, it's like the sum is great. It's shit.
The parts are better than the sum.
The sum of it. Jeez, we sound like idiots right now. Hey, we got to Google this.
The sum is better than the parts. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
There we go. Just edit out all of us.
So the sum,
wondering about it.
The sum of the parts is greater than the whole.
Right. Or like kind of the collective experience put together, especially if you're watching it with friends, it kind of makes it that much better than it would be if you're watching it alone in a dark basement on a Sunday like I was.
Yeah. Oh, man. The Apple. I'm glad we watched it. Definitely... while it is a bad movie, it definitely did put me in a bad movie feeling. And I'm a little more excited to strike forward and see Hospital Massacre.
Hospital Massacre. We're back to filling Greg's bread and butter, which is bad horror slashers.
And it kind of makes me slightly excited for the movie that comes after it, which is Lady Chatterley's Lover. But we'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
So the next movie that we're going to watch is Hospital Massacre, a.k.a. X-Ray, a.k.a. Be My Valentine, a.k.a. Or Else, a.k.a. Ward 13. That's right. It had like 5 different titles.
Was this one of those cases where they had to, like, for legal reasons, release it under different titles in different countries?
Maybe it was so bad that they kept re-releasing it under different names to make their money back.
Eventually, someone will get to a title that gets people in their, gets their butts in a seat.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Hospital Massacre, originally released in 1982, is an American slasher film, and the plot follows a woman who becomes trapped on an empty floor of a hospital where a murderer posing as a surgeon attempts to kill her.
That sounds cool.
Yes.
Hospitals are creepy places. I'm down for it.
And let me just double check, even though I'm pretty sure it is on Amazon Prime before we, tell everyone to go out there and watch it.
Oh God. If I had to pay for the Apple, this podcast would be over.
Oh my God. How horrible would that be? Oh my God.
Oh.
Is this not? Oh, I think it's under its different name on Amazon Prime. It is under X-Ray on Amazon Prime.
X-Ray.
And the X-Ray, according to Amazon Prime, is a psychotic killer keeps a young girl trapped inside a hospital, having fixed her X-rays to make it look like she has a terminal illness, and brutally murders everyone she comes in contact with. X-Ray.
Oh, okay. So I'm seeing the same thing that we saw with a previous movie where, like, there's no poster art for it.
None.
It's just sort of like generic filler text from Amazon. Oh boy. Off to a good start. Can't wait.
All right, so what's the quote of the week?
Okay, so quote of the week, I'm going to get a little unconventional here because I actually didn't think there was a lot of weird song lyrics, which we kind of talked about throughout the review. So I'll leave those there. Those won't be the quote of the week. Otherwise, there wasn't a lot of like crazy spoken lines that were so bad and stupid. A lot of it was in the song lyrics. And again, we already talked about that. So the one quote I've got two quotes. One isn't actually from the movie, but the one that is from the movie is from the very beginning when they were in the production bay and is like the first song. And it's just like, it makes me laugh about how people portray the future. And the quote is, use your imagination. This is 1994.
Yes.
From Mr. Deuce Bigelow himself. I love when movies refer to the future and they just get shit so wrong. It's just so charming.
It's like, do you really expect this to be, it's 14 years in the future.
Yeah, really. Like things are not going to change that much. It reminds me of a Demolition Man a little bit, where it's like
only
LA
Taco Bell is around.
Yeah, exactly. It's like LA is this weird utopia. It's like, aw, how cute. The other quote, which this obviously is not from the movie, but it reminded me a lot of, and we talked a lot about how this just like was so on the nose and beat you over the head with every theme. So I watched this with my wife Becky, and she thought of this as relating to this quite a bit. And there's the episode of Futurama where Fry goes to robot hell, and
yes,
they're making music, and the robot devil says this. He says, your lyrics lack subtlety. You can't just have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry.
Oh my God.
It's just like so perfectly sums up how I feel about this movie. It lacks subtlety. The characters announce how they think and feel, and it makes me angry.
I agree with you. That's good. That is
Quotes
really
of the
good.
week.
Oh man. Well, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave us a review wherever you can. Share the podcast with other people. We're literally
All two of you.
we're everywhere. Make your mom listen to it. She's gonna love it. And
Your
give
mom
us some
likes musicals,
critics.
right?
Yeah, moms like musicals, and we talk about mom horror all the time.
Yeah.
We should call this Momcast.
Momcast.
Welcome to Momcast, where we talk about films that moms might or might not like. But go ahead. Share this with your friends. They want to hear us talk. But more importantly, I want to hear from you. And that's right. You're going to email us. Whoever is listening, email us at thatscanon@gmail.com. That's THATSCANNON@gmail.com. I will just start emailing people eventually and asking them to email me back if I don't get emails soon.
We're going to start picking random emails that we
Yes.
bought off the dark web.
Just be like, hey, have you ever heard our podcast? Guess what? You're going to answer some questions and I'm going to read it on here. Well, remember, since we said it,
That's canon.